Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned into the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC.
John Coleman.
Dio, what is poppin', my friend?
We are back in our home studio office.
Shout out Florida.
Shout out to Winter Park, Florida. For those that don't know, by the way, Winter Park is Orlando.
Yeah.
So you and I were just out at the MBA National Conference.
Shout out the MBA National Conference in San Diego.
Shout out to the MBA. Yeah, it was in San Diego this year. It's in Vegas next year. That means you and I get to go to Nashville twice together. We get to go in January for Waterstone's annual sales conference, and then we'll flip 9 months later and we'll go right back in October for the MBA National Conference.
Hopefully folks don't have a good photographic memory because...
hopefully they don't. Hopefully, you know what? Good thing about Nashville, they see a lot of people like you and I.
Okay, cool.
Yes. And we come and go. They see more bachelorette parties than they do people like you and I, but we come and go. And yeah, it's another John. Okay. Just like you're just John.
Just John.
We're just another John. Just another John and another Dio.
Okay.
But we had a crazy good time, like productive.
It was.
And fun.
It was.
Wild.
Yes.
Well, some of the instances, how our trip started was a little bit wild.
I mean, but that was to be expected. You thought we weren't even going to take off on time, but it caught up with us.
Where do we start?
I don't know. That's a great,
because here's the thing. Well, I don't know where to start.
You don't
like. Let's just start with this because someone may be tuning in for the first time.
Okay.
And I have a feeling with this episode, it's going to be fire. It's going to be funny. Some people may be grossed out.
Right.
And some people will be inspired. And we'll drop a hint of education because we will tell you some of the things we learned while being with people like Christy Ferco, who is the chairwoman of the MBA, but she also has been recently appointed or hired on to lead Wells Fargo's mortgage division.
Okay.
Yes. So we got to be around people like that.
Nice.
Right? We got to be around people like Pitbull.
Shout out Pitbull.
On top of a aircraft carrier. Dale, right? Yes. So for the people who are tuning in for the first time, we thank you.
Thank you.
Please understand that we can be found in just about any format. If you are into watching us, you can find us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is?
At the Loan Officer Podcast.
Perfect. And if you want to listen to us, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Google Play, we are on Stitcher, or really anywhere where you can find podcasts. And John, where are we?
What do you mean? Right now?
No, how do you listen to us,
at
John?
At the Loan Officer Podcast. What do you mean?
At the Loan Officer Podcast.
Of course.
Yes. That young lady reached out to me and she says, please let John speak some more. He has such a nice voice.
Thank you, lovely listener.
And I said, yeah, but John's shy.
That's not true.
John is shy.
I can't believe she fell for that. But yes, let's live in that universe where John is shy.
Okay. How about this?
Okay.
Where can people find us on social media?
They can find us on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at the Loan Officer Podcast. Dustin's preferred method for you to reach out to him is on LinkedIn. You can find him on LinkedIn. It's just Dustin Owen. Type it in the search bar, you'll find him. And if you would find me, you can try to Google me, but please don't. I am John Coleman. So now that we have the semantics out of the way, let's get started on experiences learned and lessons learned and valuable insight learned from the 2021 MBA conference.
Yes, and we're going to have plenty of shout outs, right? Yeah. We shouted out Christy already. We shouted out Pitbull already. I brought up we're in Winter Park, Florida, but I made sure I had to preface that that's basically Orlando.
Yeah.
If you guys are tuning in on YouTube and you can see in our backdrop, that's downtown Orlando.
Yeah, for real.
That is downtown Orlando. That is Interstate 4 or I-4 as we call it here. When we're in California, they call it the 5.
The 5.
We don't call it the 4.
No.
We call it I-4.
Yes.
But what was funny is that I was with our senior vice president of capital markets, Bob Salingo, for several meetings when we were out in San Diego together. Okay. And Bob always loved to introduce me. Oh yeah, Dustin, he runs our Winter Park region. And I'm like, well, it's the Florida region. Okay. And most recently, we're kind of taking over more of the East Coast division. That's a whole nother episode. And I'm like, Bob, people don't know where Winter Park is. They don't. It's kind of like when people say, well, where's Waterstone's home office? I don't say Pewaukee. I say Milwaukee.
Okay.
People know Milwaukee because of the Bucks and Giannis. Right? If I say Pewaukee, like, huh?
What?
If I say Winter Park, is that Colorado? Is that Florida? Is that Arizona? I don't know. Well, look, it's Orlando. Okay. So John and I are back in our studio office in Orlando. And shout out to Sarah Gallardo. So Sarah's a loan officer who does not work out of this particular branch, but she was in this branch today because a bunch of our loan officers were putting on a huge realtor lunch and learn. Crazy enough, they were doing a lunch and learn about solar panels. Yeah, I'm like, Sarah, we just did an episode on solar panels. She's like, yeah, I listened to it. And that was the motivation behind them doing
No way.
Yeah, because it's something realtors need to know about, right? So nonetheless, but Sarah was so cute. She peeked her head in my office and she's never seen this setup.
Oh my God.
She goes, this is where you do it?
Yeah. This is
Yeah. She's like, I feel like I'm on the set of Friends. I'm like,
my
well,
God.
not quite, Sarah.
Not that big.
But hey, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for
She
real.
totally stroked my ego.
Yeah, that's good.
She's probably going to come at me with a really low pricing exception in about 3 days.
Yeah, so hey, Dio.
Yeah. Yep. But no, so Winter Park is Orlando. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Christy. Shout out to Pitbull.
Okay.
Shout out to Bob Salingo.
Yes.
I want to talk about our trip because it was amazing. It started with a flight delay. It ended with you and I sitting down by the Pacific Ocean.
Tower 23 to be exact.
Tower 23 to be exact, up in PB or Pacific Beach,
Yes.
where we had a couple IPAs, we had some ahi nachos,
Delicious.
and we just chilled after laying down a couple awesome podcasts. Ready?
Yes.
Shout out to Steve Richmond.
Shout out Steve Richmond.
Episode was fire.
Yes.
And Dave Savage. Episode was fire. I said like 9 months ago.
You did.
You were like, hey, Dio, who do you want on this show?
Yeah,
And I started naming out names.
you did.
I want Casey with Xenix. I want my boy Rene Rodriguez. I want Barry Habib. I want Dave Savage.
Well, if you stop right there, it's halfway.
Hey, we're 2 for 4.
That's it,
We're 2 for 4.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, we're going to spend the next 15, 17, 22
Shit,
minutes,
good luck.
whatever it takes.
Good luck, because once you get in the vibe of this, I don't think you're going to slow down. So
Should I just start?
I'll start.
You want to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So
go ahead
our
and kick
trip
it off.
started on a Sunday morning, early flight. We had to be at the airport at 5 a.m., which is fine. We get there, we get on the plane. Everything's as it should be. We get on the plane. We have a stop in Utah, and that's where the fun begins.
That's where the fun begins because we first try to go to the Sky Lounge. They won't let us in. Well, they would, but we had to pay them $80. I'm like, nah.
International flights only.
Correct. International flights only, or we're not baller status yet.
Not yet.
Okay. And we go to our gate, and the pilot comes out, and he tells us,
Flat out, the plane is broken, not making up that verbiage.
yeah, the plane is broken. Thank God we didn't have to board the plane, but like, yeah, we have to take this plane away. We'll go find you a new one. Stay tuned.
Yes, literally.
What does stay tuned mean? They're like, I don't know. I'm like,
Yes,
all right, it's pretty arbitrary.
That's where I stand there and say, we're going to be here for a couple hours. You're standing there like at the gate, like thinking like, oh, 20-minute delay. I'm like, no, Justin, it's time to go back to the bar.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not, this is my first rodeo. So we go to the bar, and this is the craziest thing that happened,
This
right?
is not, yes.
So we sit down, we find a spot. NFL football is on, which is kind of cool when you fly out west.
Yeah.
It was only like 11:30. It's
great.
But NFL football's on already. So we're watching NFL football. They're still serving breakfast.
Yes.
With beer.
Oh my gosh.
Because you and I have been up at this point for like 7 hours. So
Win-win.
it's beyond
Oh, yeah.
beer 30.
Yeah, it's a beer.
Order a beer, but with a breakfast sandwich.
Yes.
And well, I bit into my sandwich. And first, the audience should know this. This beautiful smile that I rock, it ain't real. I mean, it's really mine. I really paid for it. And shout out to Dr. Charles Curley
Shout out Dr.
in
Curley.
Altamont Springs, Florida, with Distinctive Dentistry. Because Charlie made this grill for me. Now, he's not the first dentist to make me a grill. I've been wearing a fake grill since I was in the first grade.
Okay.
But Charlie made the teeth I have.
Okay.
And they're all bridge work, dental implants, like caps. Like, people are nodding their head right now because they know what it's like to have a bunch of dental work beyond braces.
Right.
And I bit into my sandwich, and I'm kind of chewing around. I'm like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I kind of did the swishing thing and
Yeah.
finished chewing and swallowed.
Yeah.
What was my next reaction? Because you were right next to me.
I was right next to you, not paying attention because you were eating an egg McMuffin or whatever, and then you said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't effing do this." And I look at you, I'm like, "What?" I'm thinking like you spilled something. I'm thinking you got a phone call, and you looked at me and you said, John, I lost my tooth. I swallowed my tooth," and I was like, "What?" And then you smiled, and lo and behold, you look like a first-round NHL draft player, straight out of the penalty box. That's what you look like.
So here we are, right? We have purchased flights from Florida to California is not cheap. So easily $900, $1,200
Yes.
bucks a piece
Yes.
flights.
Yes.
Because right now with this whole inflation thing, flights are up. We have not one but two hotel rooms because as much as I love John, I don't love to share a room with
We're not
him.
there yet, no.
And although John didn't register for the convention, I did. And this convention is one of the biggest conventions. It's a who's who of the mortgage industry.
It is.
It is like $2,500 or something to attend.
Yeah.
Now, I received a discount because I was actually being not honored. I was being recognized.
Yes.
Sunday night, the kickoff of the event is CMB graduation. And because of COVID, I didn't get to do my CMB graduation in 2020.
Right.
So the NBA was recognizing all of the 2020s and the 2021s together. And you and I also had a podcast
Yes.
with Paul.
Paul, shout out Paul.
Right? Shout out to Paul Gelati. With, oh my God, so the story gets crazier. I'll go back to the tooth thing, I promise. But we need to give Paul a shout out because so Paul not only dealt with us pushing back his podcast interview by like 2.5, 3 hours, right? So Paul is with Pinnacle Home Loans out of Northern California. He's their COO. Paul also has this passion project, just like TLOP is our passion project. Paul's passion project is Axis Lending Academy. Folks, check it out. Axis, AXIS Lending Academy. Because what Paul is trying to do with Axis is he is trying to bring in younger and more diverse mortgage professionals into the industry. They are offering training. They're offering mentorship. They're offering internships through Axis Lending Academy. Processors, loan officers, closers.
Oh, wow. So it's a lot.
Yes,
Okay,
loan
nice.
officer assistants. Yes.
Nice.
So y'all should definitely check that out. But just like Sunday went with the plane breaking, my tooth breaking off and it being swallowed, we have to push back Paul's episode by 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame the 4 Heinekens that you had at the Salt Lake City airport for this, John.
Yeah.
But our audio
Yes.
is totally foobarred from Paul's episode.
Correct.
So we have to redo, by the way, there's a kick-ass episode.
Yeah, it's great.
We have to redo Paul's episode, but we have to wait for next time we're in California
Okay.
or next time Paul's in Florida.
Okay.
Because I still refuse to do these episodes if we can't do them face to
That
face.
sounds good.
They just work better. They sound better. The dynamic is better. It's
It
just
is.
our thing.
It is.
That's our creative freedom.
Correct.
Okay. But shout out to Paul.
okay.
We'll get you, Paul, a TLOP t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. It's already in the mail.
John apologizes for not giving you one on Sunday.
God, it was just
It was a foobar day.
It was a long day.
So
back to what really matters at the bar, because everyone knows those the airport bars. People look around watching the game, minding their own business. We're at the corner of the bar, and he gets up, but when Dustin has a voice that projects, ladies and gentlemen. So when he said this at the bar, things got quiet, and everybody kind of looked at him and looked at me, and I said, "Oh, shit." So he runs off to the bathroom, and at this point in my mind, I'm thinking, "Wow, like." Because you literally said, like, I'm done. I'm going home. This is over. I can't do this.
what would you do? Let me ask the audience. What would you do? You are flying out to a conference that you dropped a ton of coin on, that you've been looking forward to for 2 years, that you've been planning for 4 years, because to you, obtaining your CMB was a big deal. Yeah. You're also looking forward to all the networking opportunities. You're helping your producer of your podcast go out there so you guys can lay down some awesome episodes and do a little networking.
Yeah.
And you're freaking, not your back molar.
No.
Your front tooth.
Should I insert the picture here?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. We're going to use that picture later down the road.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, maybe that's something like when the listeners help us get to like 5,000 IG followers,
okay.
or when we get to over 10,000 YouTube subscribers.
Okay, then we let it out.
I think the reward should be, we need to show a picture of me going to my CMB graduation in a $3,000 suit with a $3 smile. I shot my wife a picture of me waiting to go on stage.
Oh my God, it's epic.
Yes. Standing next to Christy Furco
Right.
and refusing to smile. Yeah, a smile that my parents had spent tens of thousands of dollars on throughout my childhood to make sure it was pretty. And
if you flash that.
So what would you do? So my reaction was, I'm going home. I don't know how I'm getting home because my luggage is on a plane.
Correct. You were strapped.
That I don't know.
If you had a carry-on, you would have left.
Probably.
Because you had all this stuff checked.
So I do what any rational, resourceful, driven
is the right word.
Hold my beer type person would do. I figured maybe I have time to catch it before it gets into my digestive tract.
Okay. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
what'd you do?
Do you really want to know?
Yes.
Well, you use your imagination, John, and imagine how would you try to get something you just swallowed to come back up.
Okay, gotcha. So you did that.
So I did that not once, but 4 times.
Wow.
4 times.
Okay.
Yep, self-induced.
Nice, and you got it back, and we're back on the road.
No. Self-induced. My eyes are watering. I'm like, looking at the remnants of what I see. Can't find it in there. Clean up after myself. Flush the toilet. I was doing this like on paper towels so it wouldn't go into the toilet type thing. And I go to the sink and I'm cleaning up, right? Rinsing my mouth out and stuff. And I promise you, I can't make this up. I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, you wuss, you wimp, you don't quit, you don't give up. Take your watery eye ass back into that handicapped stall in the men's bathroom in the Salt Lake City airport, and you get that tooth. You've put in too much time, too much money to just go home now.
Literally.
So I went.
And
did it 4 more times.
Nice, and then you get the tooth, and we're back on the road.
Tooth doesn't appear.
Oh my God.
At that point, 15 minutes had passed.
Yeah, more than that.
I'm done with doing unhealthy things, and I decided to own it.
Yeah.
I decided to own it. Look, I wanted to cry. I wanted to punch somebody. I wanted to go home. But at the end of the day, I was like, WWDOD. What would DO actually say? What would I say? Because sometimes we don't necessarily practice what we preach.
Right.
I'm going to practice what I preach. Own it.
The plethora of emotions you must have felt.
Now, you were trying to be a good friend.
I tried.
You tried.
I mean,
what was some stuff you're telling me?
I was like, hey, I literally said, hey, man, you got to own it. It's not, I didn't say it's not that bad. I was like, yes, you can tell, but I was like, you'll be remembered.
That's what you kept on saying. Because I had told John already, and this is a true story. We were out in San Diego, and there are 5,000 people there, of which there's probably 15 African Americans. There's probably 1,000 women, and then 4,000 dudes that look like me and dress like me.
Shout out Steve for this term. I believe he calls it male and pale.
And stale.
Stale.
Yeah, male, pale, and stale.
Oh, okay, I lost that.
Yes. What's something cool that the NBA does, they do something called Empower. Empower, for anyone who's ever looking to go, I'm going to do this next time. Empower kicks off on Saturday, and it's about empowering women and minorities to be a force in the future of the mortgage industry.
Nice.
So I didn't get a chance to do Empower. I learned about it really for the first time going out this past trip.
Right.
But if you're ever looking at going, I highly suggest don't do what we did and try to go Saturday to Wednesday. Try to go, we went Sunday to Wednesday. Try to go Saturday or even Friday to Tuesday or Wednesday so that you could get the full effects of being involved in Empower. Yeah. So, but you were saying to me, well, now you'll be memorable. Yeah, now you won't just be another guy wearing a Tom James suit.
You're going to be like that guy who runs Waterstone, I think in Florida. Yeah, the guy with the tooth. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be
like,
the podcast with no tooth.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it's going to be. But
so anyhow, I psyched myself up, and I'll fast forward because we're kind of getting long in the tooth on this particular story.
It's a great story.
At the end of the day, I owned it. We did our podcast with Paul without me having a tooth.
That's correct.
It's now considered the lost episode because the audio is screwed up. Right. So you all will never get a chance to see it because it's the lost episode. Right. I put on my best Tom James suit.
Literally.
It is a $3,000 suit, and I rocked my $3 smile. It sucked because I really would have loved to have a longer and better conversation with Christy Ferco than I did.
Right.
But I was a little bit embarrassed meeting someone for the first time that I now look up to in terms of the things she's accomplished in her career, and someone that honestly, I hope I can have as a guest on this show. Yeah. And shout out to Brian Young, who we had lunch with Home Lending Pal. Yeah. I think Brian may be able to help make that happen.
Okay.
If he knows Christy's schedule, and the next time Christy's in Orlando, Brian said he would do what he could to see if she could come.
Okay.
That's if Wells Fargo will let her. Sometimes these big banks look at what you and I do, and we might be a little bit off color for them. But I went to the event. I rocked it the best I could. I owned it the best I could. And then you and I went to a really awesome party put on by Arch MI. Shout out to Arch MI. Is on the top of the Hard Rock Hotel. That's where we did some networking. And at that point, I'm like, I can't go any more parties. Yep. I just got to go home. I was done. I faked it as much as I could fake it. The whole fake it till you make it.
You did.
And I honestly didn't know what I was going to do the next day, but I'll be damned, I did my CMB graduation.
Yeah.
Right? I was there, I was suited up, and I did it.
So how did you feel after, like, really, like, the lesson of the story, boys and girls, is no matter kind of what, you just had to persevere?
Yeah, you had to persevere. What type of person are you? What type of person? Are you the type of person that is going to do anything that you can to make it work? And even when you can't make it work, you still go through. Mm-hmm. Right? Because me showing up and me being there was still better than the alternative.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I still got to experience it. We still made some good connections. I still got to meet people like Christy. I get to see some of my friends like Sush or like Brian View, right? Or I got to see PJ Harrington. Like I got to see some of my CMB friends.
Right.
I got to see some of the people that I graduated with, like Josh. Like, I mean, there's lots of people that I still got to see. I might not have done as much networking as I wanted to do that night, but I still was there. I was present.
Right. And
I think that was the moral of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
So then we move on to Monday.
Okay.
How did your Monday start for you?
I woke up to, I think, a phone call from you or a text.
I think it was a text, John.
It was a text. And you sent me a text and you were smiling.
I was smiling. And what'd you see?
A tooth.
You saw all my teeth.
All your teeth. And I was like, oh, that's funny. You sent me like a photo from, your photo camera, your roll or something. Must be from old times. And I literally replied, WTF, no way. And then I said, how? I said, WTF, no way, how? And then you said, you don't want to know, ...
You don't want to know. Mm-hmm. I'll share sparing some details. Mm-hmm. But people have to keep in mind, like, this is the biggest mortgage event of the year.
Literally.
5,000 plus people all pour into San Diego. We're invited to see Pitbull on the USS Midway. Mm-hmm. We're invited to see, what's the band that was there?
One Republic, I think.
One Republic was playing. Mm-hmm. I have, like, meetings with companies like the Knowledge Coop. We have parties to go to being put on, like, by organizations like the Mortgage Collaborative.
Yeah. Like Malcolm Gladwell was speaking.
Malcolm Gladwell was speaking. Mel Robbins was speaking. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
Going on
that we wanted to be a part of.
Yeah,
we had people we went to podcast with. Like, there was a lot.
Yes.
Woke up the next morning, and I figured this. Well, option 1 didn't work. Right? I couldn't catch the tooth.
Right. Well, option 1 did not work.
Yep. But you know what? Good old number 2.
Option number 2.
Good old number 2 will give you an opportunity to find that tooth. So, woke up in the morning. I said, number 2, let's see what we can do. Hey.
No.
Found the tooth.
What?
Hot water.
What?
Bar of soap.
What?
A 1 hour soak in some Listerine.
And
walked my happy ass to Ralph's, which, by the way, I'm not from California, but Ralph's is like a convenience store.
Shout out Ralph's.
Yep. I walked about 5 blocks to Ralph's, where I bought some Gorilla Glue.
No, you didn't.
I came back to my hotel room where that tooth was soaking in Listerine for the past hour.
Oh, my God.
And between Gorilla Glue and the Marriott Marquis hair dryer, which, by the way, I have no hair, so I don't know how to use a hair dryer, but I used a hair dryer and Gorilla Glue, and I put that tooth back together, just like Humpty Dumpty.
Just like Humpty Dumpty.
Just like Humpty Dumpty. I rocked it.
By the way, this is like 9 a.m., folks. This is not like, oh, it's 11 a.m. No, like, he was already dressed, ready for the day. I'm like struggling, like, where am I? And he's like, oh, ready to go.
I'm ready to go. Dude, the trade show floor opened up at 10 a.m.
How did it make you?
I had to be down at the trade show floor because that's where I do my networking.
So you woke up in the morning, you were staring at the ceiling. You probably have forgotten for the split second you woke up, but for the half a second you woke up, you're like, I'm good. Oh, no, I'm not. And then you just ran through the scenarios in your head, and then you're like, I'm just going to do this, and you just did it.
Yeah. Look, it's a no if I don't ask, John. The answer is a no if I don't ask.
Right.
And come hell or high water, I'm not going to let things get in the way of things that I want.
So once you did that, and once you accomplished said goal, how did you feel? Like, what was the endorphin rush? Were you like back to mentally? Like, where was your state? Can you describe that?
I was a little grossed out. I was a whole lot proud.
Right.
I contemplated whether or not this would make great content. I knew it was going to make great content. Did I want to share it?
Right.
But I'm like, this is a positive story. Like, what type of person are you? Like, what type of business professional are you? I think I proved my worth there.
I think you did.
I think I have a story, a signature story, right? David Goggins would talk about that's something I put in the cookie jar, right? That's the memory I put in the cookie jar that reminds me that, if life throws me a curveball, I hit that thing backside.
Speaking of curveballs,
Speaking of curveballs, we did throw a curveball. So fun stuff that John and I got to do. So my childhood best friend, Brian Miller, moved out to San Diego almost 15 years ago. I'm a huge avid Braves fan, Atlanta Braves. They're going to the World Series. I'm going to be there this Saturday and this Sunday, games 4, games 5, taking moms, taking dad, bringing my sister along.
Amazing.
It's going to be a family affair, right?
Nice.
But I'm also a baseball fanatic, and I want to go to every baseball stadium in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So I looked at my schedule on Tuesday. I kind of had the whole tooth fiasco. I reached out to Brian. He was off, and I said, hey, I make a deal with you, Brian. If you drive, I'll buy. We're going to game 3 of the NLDS.
What's that sound? Him shutting the car door and I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there. He picks up John and I,
Yeah.
10 a.m. from our hotel. We
Yep.
drive our happy asses 2.5 hours up to L.A.
Yep.
I got to go to Dodger Stadium,
Yep.
which I am not a Dodger fan. I'm an anti-Dodger fan, but that stadium is a top 5 stadium in the country. It was an amazing game.
Amazing.
I mean, it looked great on SportsCenter highlights.
Yes.
It did not go the Braves' way, but that's okay because the series went the Braves' way. Braves won that stuff in 6.
Yep.
They won it in 6, but we got to go to the game.
Great experience.
I unfortunately had to cancel some meetings, so I really wanted to go see a nationally renowned author and speaker, Mel Robbins. I didn't get a chance to see her live, but it's okay. I found her on YouTube over the weekend.
There you go.
And I had to cancel a meeting that I had with the Knowledge Coop. But it's okay because I had a call with them instead.
Shout out the call. You
Like
had.
I reached out to them and said, hey guys, I have an opportunity to go to Braves, Dodgers, NLCS. Like,
Hold on, whoa. That's just, you told the truth to somebody. You actually told them what they're doing instead of just blowing them off and making up a story.
no, I tend to tell the truth.
Good for
Yeah, I
you.
went to years and years of counseling to learn how to tell the truth. Like I'm good with the truth now.
Right.
Okay. But yeah, so we got to do that. But like other cool stuff that you and I got to do while we were out there, like we got to connect with Brian Young. Brian Young, if you remember from an early episode,
Yes.
he is the next fintech unicorn.
Yes, he is.
Right? He is going to be the first African-American fintech unicorn.
Yep.
His company is Home Lending Pal. And it was so cool seeing Brian out there because it was Brian in his element. And it was kind of like his big like reveal party.
Yeah.
Right? And he was the darling.
Yeah.
Right? Because when we went out to the NBA and you're sitting here and you're having meetings and you're talking to CEOs, like we met Kevin, who's the CEO of PRMG. Shout out to Kevin, great dude. It was cool to be able to meet him face to face because I follow him on LinkedIn and he, like me, posts a lot on LinkedIn. And I tend to try to watch every now and again what he has to say. So we got to meet Kevin at one of the parties that we went to, but we got to hang out with Brian Young and we got to meet with other executives. And there's a lot being done in our industry regarding diversity and inclusion, right? Rightfully needed so. Now, we as an industry, we're also trying to solve for this 5 years ago when I was at an MBA conference. But, 5 years ago, there weren't companies like Home Lending Pal out there. There weren't the Brian Youngs of the world that are creating fintech, consumer-facing, blockchain utilization technologies that'll allow borrowers to apply for a mortgage without necessarily letting people know their age, their sex, their race, their sexual orientation, etc.
Oh, wow.
And then for that information to be exchanged amongst lenders utilizing blockchain.
Oh.
Right? So like Brian was out there. We got to have lunch with Brian,
Great lunch.
which, Brian lives in Orlando just like we live in Orlando, but Brian's on the road all the time.
Yeah.
Had we not been out there, we probably wouldn't have had an opportunity to sit down with Brian. Brian checked out what you're doing on TLOPonline.com.
Yep.
Gave you some suggestions on how
Sage
you can
advice.
optimize the website.
Yep.
Like things like this don't happen in everyday, ordinary life unless you're going out to these events, right? It was at one of the happy hours or parties, they call them, that I got to meet Josh Pitts.
Yeah.
So I don't know Josh Pitts. I honestly don't even know what Josh Pitts does. His company is Shred Media. Still don't know what they do. But I know the guy is everywhere, right? So whatever he does, he's everywhere doing it.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to Josh, I introduced myself, find out that Josh knows Dave Savage.
Just in conversation.
Just in conversation. And I know, like, my friend Renee Rodriguez is friends with Dave Savage, and my business partner, Mike Smalley, is friends with Dave Savage. I had other connections, but I personally have only met Dave once or twice, and was always in passing in a large group.
Yeah.
I never had a chance to get one-on-one with him. But because I was out in San Diego and because I just walked up and started networking with Josh introduced me to Dave. Right. I didn't know Steve Richmond was going to be out there, but Steve and I are boys. We go way back. But Steve lives in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I run into Steve 2 or 3 times a year at various industry functions. I've once brought Steve in to speak at one of our sales rallies. And Steve and I have been texting about, hey, we should do a show together. I'd love to have you on as a guest. But because we were out there, that's why we were able to get Steve.
Exactly.
I learned about Knowledge Coop by being out there. I think TLOP Online and Knowledge Coop have a lot of synergies.
Okay.
I think we should look at doing some things together because Knowledge Coop could solve a need for our listeners when it comes to things like continuing education. For things like studying for your NMLS, taking the 20-hour course, right? Those are things that maybe Knowledge Coop may be the solution for our listeners. Now, Knowledge Coop does way more than that. Like if you run a mortgage company, you should probably check out Knowledge Coop.
Really?
Right, for some of the services that they have to offer. And I don't want to give their sales pitch because I'd butcher it.
Right.
But I was just talking to Jim about a couple hours ago. But we got that from being out there. Or we talked about Paul Gelati. Yeah. I mean, if we weren't going to be out there, there's no way I would have ever. Right. And I now view Paul as a friend. Right. Like, hey, he's one of my friends in the industry. He does what I do, and he's passionate about things that I'm passionate about. Yeah. You want to hear some other things that I learned while I was out there?
Of course.
So going forward, as we look into 2022, and I know we just did an episode called Race to the Bottom where we covered some of this, but just want to reiterate, this was the talk of the conference. Next year, refis are going to be cut in half.
Really?
Yes. So that means mortgage volume is going to be down by more than a third. But good news.
What's that?
The purchase business should be up by almost 10%.
Okay.
So it's being projected or hypothesized that the purchase business will be up by somewhere between 7 to 10%.
Is that because more newer homes are getting built, or
just more people are buying houses?
Okay.
We expect more inventory to come on the market. We're through the forbearances.
Okay.
So people are at a point where they're going to have to modify their mortgage or put their house on the market. Okay. People are going to be more willing to sell because they have even that much more equity. People are going to be more willing to sell because maybe they weren't selling because of COVID issues, but now that COVID is almost behind us and we're almost to a endemic versus a pandemic, then we can try to get life back to normal a little bit.
Okay.
But it's just being projected that because interest rates are going to continue to stay on the rise, because inflation is going to continue to be a pressure on us, we should anticipate and expect that the refinance market is going to be 60% of what it was this year in 2022. But the purchase business is going to be up. We talk a lot about focus on the purchase business. This is why, right? This is why we talk about it. But if I'm a loan officer, I'm a mortgage professional, I need to be gearing up for what does that mean? Well, it means I need to get better at what I do. It means I need to become a better advisor, a better consultant. I need to learn how to actually present, build trust, and sell. Maybe I need to check out Black Swan, which is a website which is put on by Chris Voss and company. Chris Voss wrote one of my favorite books, Never Split the Difference. Maybe I need to focus on building relationships with realtors and builders versus trying to buy refinance leads from from bankrate.com. Right? So these are some of the things that we picked up while we were out there. We got to hear. We learned what HUD is going to try to be doing. We also learned what the FHFA is going to try to do.
Okay.
And what I can tell you from the FHFA, they are trying to solve for the massive appraisal issue that we have going on right now. The FHFA, which is the conservator, or I call it the parent for Fannie and Freddie, is starting in January of 2022, they want to start utilizing AVMs or automated valuation methods in order to get more loans processed and closed in a timely fashion without having to use a full appraisal that requires a human to go out and actually view the property.
Okay.
So these are some of the things that are coming out from a regulatory standpoint that should ease some of the burdens.
Right.
Now, HUD is really, really, really trying to solve for the inequality in homeownership, right? And the inequality as they view it is low to moderate income or minority homeowners compared to non-low to moderate income or non-minorities when it comes to homeownership. So we should start hearing about programs that are going to come out of the current administration through HUD that would benefit people who have never in their lifetime been a homeowner and that are low to moderate income or that are also minority or all of the above. Nice. right? So like we heard that from HUD. We heard those things from the FHFA. We got some predictions and projections and hypotheses from the MBA as it pertains to forecasting.
Okay.
The number one thing that the mortgage industry is trying to solve for is diversity and inclusion.
Number one.
Period. End of story. Yes, that is Access Lending Academy. That is Home Lending Pal. That is TLOP.
Yeah.
You know, like we're and financial literacy.
Yes, financial.
We are trying to solve. That's Home Lending Pal. That's Dave Savage.
Yeah.
That's TLOP.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do we help people become more financially literate?
Yeah.
If you listen to Dave Savage, you can hear that's one of his passions. Dave was the previous episode, right? So the previous episode of this one was me interviewing Dave Savage, and Dave fully believes in his heart of hearts that the mortgage industry and loan officers specifically can do way more good for their fellow mankind as educators of financial literacy than any financial advisor, any high school teacher, any college professor. And guess what, John?
Yeah.
Guess what?
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's what we believe in.
Yeah.
That's why we need to partner with the Brian Youngs of Home Lending Pals. That's why we need to partner with the Dave Savages of Mortgage Coach.
Right.
Right? That's why we need to partner with Access Lending Academy and Paul. Yeah. Right? That's why we need to maybe partner with Knowledge Coop.
Right.
Right? All of this came about.
Yeah, literally.
This crazy ass story.
Literally.
All happened in 4 days.
Yep.
On a flight from Orlando to San Diego by way of Salt Lake City.
Correct. But also, all of that could have never happened if you just packed it up and said, you know what, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Literally, all of that would have never happened. And those memories and connections literally will last a lifetime. So, lesson to be learned.
Lesson to be learned. You know what? Let's end there.
Okay.
That's a great summary.
Yeah.
That is a great summary. We hope you all. What are the 4 tenets, John? Do you remember the 4 tenets?
We want to educate, motivate, entertain, and inspire. If we hit 2 out of the 4, it's great. We'll take singles all day. If we hit 4 out of 4, that's a grand slam.
Yep. I think we did that. At a minimum, I hope you're entertained.
I hope someone laughed.
I hope you learned something.
Yes.
I hope you're a little bit motivated and a tad bit inspired.
Yeah, please.
Do us a favor. If you're tuning in for the first time or you haven't done this yet, please like us. Mm-hmm. Please share us. If you're on YouTube, comment. We love your comments. We love to respond to your comments.
Yep.
John's been a little bit lackadaisical at responding to all the comments, but he says he'll do a better job of, if he can't respond, at least let me know I need to log on and respond. But he's John Coleman. I'm Dustin Owen. That's all the time we have for this episode. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.